Okay, this is Andrew. Welcome to CS504 Project number 3, Test Plan and Cases. Okay, so this basically comes from the rubrics that were under test and assignment. It's been modified a little bit. Create a test plan, including test cases for provided code and a problem description. So basically, I'm going to give you a problem, and I'm going to give you the code, and you're going to create the test plan as we've been going over in the course and in the text. Okay, the student will indicate and explain the process model to be used. The test plan will be developed to be consistent with the process model. The plan must include an overview of the approach to the testing, including the project test philosophy. The plan must include needed unit, system validation, verification, and acceptance testing. The plan should indicate regression testing requirements. The plan must assign responsibility for each test, and the student will develop example test cases for required tests. The test cases must be consistent with the test plan approach and requirements. Each process must be documented. Okay, so let's talk about the background of the problem. So basically what happens is, um, so in your typical network, you may have hundreds of routers out in a large company. You may have routers in a different system connecting back to your hub site. Say the hub site's in Seattle, you have one in Chicago, New York, Tampa, just wherever. You get the idea. So you have multiple routers, okay? So traditionally, you would use SSH and go in and manually configure this router, and go and configure this router. Well, also you have problems with the routers, so you may need to go in and look at the configuration files, how that router is configured, and then you have to look at this one and maybe compare them to try to figure out where the problems are. So what they've done is basically a big thing in the world now is you use Python, for example, on this computer, and Python will just automate going out and reading and writing to these routers, okay? So that's what we're doing is we're doing some Python code that actually implements that, okay? So the overview of the assignment is you're provided the code, so I'm giving you the code that reads and writes from n number of routers in GNS3. So that means the user can stipulate, I have 8 routers, I have 12 routers, I have 14, you get it, n number of routers, okay? The script that I'm providing you, which will be 2000, is the final working code. However, it is not officially tested, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to create a test plan as discussed in the course and text and test it. So you'll need to break the final code into modules, okay? So right now I have the whole code into one script, which makes sense because it's just really small blocks. You don't necessarily need to pull it out into different functions or scripts. Well, you may have to test it, but in the end, it'll be back into one script, and that'll be your integration. So I'm giving you the integrated solution. What you'll have to do is pull out the various modules and do white box testing on those individually, right? Okay, so for example, you'll have to break them out into connect to GNS3, write to n number of routers, read from n number of routers. Okay, and then once all the modules are defined, you'll design and perform white box testing on each module, okay? Okay, after that, then just integrate it back into the original script, which I'm giving you, and perform integration and system tests as discussed in the course, and be sure to document that, okay? So, assignment resources, this code is provided. However, you may need some details on Python, GNS3, and networks to design and implement a test plan for this problem. So provided free to you is my course, Python Programming for Network Engineers. You need to go create a Udemy account on udemy.com, navigate to the following link, Python Programming for Network Engineers, and use this code 4CS504 and you will get the course free. We'll go ahead and take a look at that at the end of this video, but I'm assuming basically this course will need sections 9, 11, and 12. Everything else is there if you feel like you need to learn the nuts and bolts of Python from the very beginning. It's all there in sections 1 through 8. Okay, now remember also this code, you may come up with a better way to do the code, that's fine. This course is designed for non-programmers. They work as network engineers, and the industry is changing, requiring them to have some Python programming background. So this course is a beginner course to get students, to get network engineers going with Python such that they can start implementing this stuff at work, okay? So, this is not intended for expert programmers. You may come up with better ways to do the programming, that's fine. The course is laid out intentionally to teach people different concepts of programming. Okay, so basically, here's the outline of the procedures. You can use the course I'm giving you for more details, but you want to download Python. We're going to use 2.7 because still most of the library, even though Python 3 is out, Python 2 still has most of the libraries to interface with routers and such. Download and install Notepad++, download and install GNS3, download PuTTY. Okay, then on GNS3, you're going to load an iOS image. What is GNS3? We're going to discuss that. But basically, so we have 5 routers we want to test. Well, you can't do that because you don't have any routers, but there's an emulation software called GNS3 that allows you to emulate routers. And don't panic because basically all you're going to do is read and write IP addresses to the routers. That is enough well, that's your test situation, but you need to define the test situation, but reading and writing IP addresses to the router may be all you need to do to verify that the code is working, because if you can read and write the IP addresses, you can read and write any other commands. So you don't need to know all the networking commands to be able to do this project. Okay, so then after you load your GNS3 image, you want to check your network interface on your host machine, okay? And then put an IP address on the router interface that matches your host network on your host machine. That way, your host machine will be able to communicate with your routers, okay? Again, like I said, the course gives you all the details of this. This is an overview. Okay, so then after you create the connection, you want to ping the router in GNS3 from your host machine. All this is done on your one laptop, okay, or your one desktop. Okay, then you need to set the console and the VTY password. This is the virtual terminal password on the router. This is how you do it. This is enabled. This is line VTY. You can't telnet to a router unless you set the passwords on them. So just enter these commands. That's all you got to do. Plus, it shows you how to do it in the video. All right, so then use PuTTY to telnet to the router. And once you can telnet to the router from your host machine with PuTTY, that shows that your host machine has connection with your router. So then you can start using Python that's on your host machine to start reading and writing from the routers in GNS3. Okay? Use Python to read and write scripts to and from the routers. So if that wasn't totally clear, you'll see it as you go through the actual project, as you go through the actual course, okay, that I'm providing you. And really, you only need sections, like I said, I would think you only need sections. Let's see, I had them listed here. 9, 11, and 12. We'll go look at that as soon as we get done with this overview. Okay, so after that, you want to include you do your write-up. You want to include all procedures and documents described in slide 1, okay? The description of the assignment. Also include your white box testing results on the modules. Include black box testing results from integration and systems test. Consider different network configurations. So the way I had it laid out with just 5 routers there, what if there's different network configurations? Will it still work? Or in what cases does it fail? Okay, that's something you should be testing for. Okay, what conditions could cause the code to fail? So include a conclusion, what you learned, and what you may do to improve the code and your tests. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the course. Okay. Okay, so here's your Python programming for network engineers. Go to go to your course content. So here's an introduction and then prepare Python. So this shows you how to download Python. This shows you all the fundamentals if you need it. I don't think this course is really going to need it, but if you feel like you need it, it's all here, right? You can learn Python, not everything that you need to know. Remember, this course is designed for network engineers that just need to do some programming at work. It's become a requirement. To make uh, it's not intended to make someone a software guru, right? Okay, so but it goes through loops and control statements and operators, and you guys in this course probably already know all that stuff. So as you work through the problems, you'll easily see the. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is download GNS3. You don't necessarily, you can make this switch, but you'll just use routers, not switches. But go ahead and work through this video, and then you want to put your host machine on the host network. You can also use, there's an alternate method, and I will provide you a video for that. Okay, so you may want to do the alternate method if this method doesn't work for you, because in some instances it does have problems. Okay, then I've I will provide you an extra extra video that shows you how to do that in a different way. If this works for you, just go with this. If it doesn't work, then look at the alternate way. Okay, so you can skip this. This is just briefly touching on, I mean, you should already know what functions are in this project. This doesn't include, you won't be including classes and objects, right? This is for beginner programmers. Okay, so this is where you want to start, basically. Well, you want to start, you need to do all of section 9, right? Then you want to look at section 11. This is basically the problem. Like, say I choose 5 routers, right? So I choose 5 routers and I create this code that reads and writes to 5 routers, okay? Well, then after that, we modify the code to um, read and write from n number of routers. And as you work down to the end, you should see your final code is TN2000, and if you go here, you should see the code here. And some of you, I think many of you will probably understand the code just by looking at it, but you may not understand the network and stuff, so you may have to watch some of the video. You may have to watch the videos that I suggested, the sections that I suggested. Okay, so all the information's there. You just got to dig into it. So basically, I'm going to let you go through this and figure out this code yourself, but you can see the IP address, loop in number of times, write to output to a file, same command loop, sign in. So I'm started breaking this down to modules for you already. So basically, you'll test these different modules in a white box, which means you need to understand this code, right? So after that, you can put it all back into this script and then just test this script overall of how it actually performs reading and writing to n number of routers. You will be doing this. So your Python is on this computer, right? And it's communicating through this hub. Now realize this hub, you may need to change it, you may not. So if I seek IP address 192.168.1 or .99 or 100 or 103. So let's say I choose 103. Well, this hub's going to broadcast to everybody, right? That's what a hub does. So it's going to broadcast to everybody. And then when it finds, this is going to reject it. So it'll be rejected by everybody except this one. So in case in real life, you don't really have a hub here. So you might mention something like that. You would preferably have a switch here. So you may be able to use a switch. The hub may cause problems. Let me know how the results go. All right, I think that should sum up the problem, and if we have any questions, we'll discuss it further. All right, thank you.